Welcome, traveler, to Whispers of Warcraft, where legends are told beneath the hush of twilight, and the world of Azeroth breathes gently into dreams. Tonight, we follow the story of one of the most powerful and complex figures ever to walk the shifting shores of this world, Jaina Proudmoore, daughter of Kul Tiras, student of Dalaran, peacemaker and wrathbringer. Her life, like the sea she was born beside, is ever-changing, calm and cruel, brilliant and storm-tossed. Lay back now, let your eyes grow heavy, and listen as we sail softly into the beginning of the Daughter of the Sea. Long before war would mark her path, long before she wielded spells of such staggering power, Jaina Proudmoore was a child. She was born in the proud naval kingdom of Kul Tiras, an island nation cradled by the sea and ruled by ships, sails, and seafaring legacy. Her father was Jaina Proudmoore, Lord Admiral of Kul Tiras, stern and commanding, with the ocean's judgment in his voice. And her mother, Catherine, was the grace behind the throne, strong and resolute, the heart of the Proudmoore name. Jaina grew up not among books alone, but with the sound of gulls in the sky, the splash of waves on the harbor, and the cold, salt wind that danced with her hair. The docks of Boralus echoed with sailors' songs and the thunder of warships, and from the beginning, she was not a girl content to sit still. Even as a child, she would sneak into the war rooms, tracing maps with tiny fingers, listening to the tide and wondering what lay beyond the blue. But Jaina's true calling came not from her father's ships, but from within. From an early age, she felt it, a hum in the air, a shimmer behind her eyes, a song in the world that others could not hear. The arcane had chosen her. And though her father wished her to follow a naval path, to lead fleets, not conjurations, her mother saw something deeper. With gentle resolve, Catherine convinced Dalaran to send their daughter to Dalaran. It was there, in that floating city of magic and mystery, that Jaina Proudmoore would begin to become something more than noble, more than mortal. She would become a sorceress. Dalaran rose like a jewel from the landscape, its spires glistening with wards and whispers. Jaina, still only a young teenager, stepped into a world of magic that felt like breathing for the first time. She studied under the most revered mages of the Kirin Tor, including Antonidas, the wise and watchful leader of the magical order. She devoured spellbooks like stories, spent long hours in the libraries where scrolls whispered secrets older than kingdoms, and practiced until her fingers trembled with arcane light. It was here that she first met Arthas Menethil, a prince, a paladin, and a boy not yet broken. Jaina's days in Dalaran unfolded like a song. The city, a floating marvel of arcane beauty, cradled her like a second home. Magic shimmered in every corner, scrolls floating midair, fountains glowing with ley energy, and books that whispered in ancient tongues when touched by moonlight. She walked among scholars, apprentices, and grand magi. She laughed beneath violet trees whose blossoms never fell. And in quiet hours, she practiced tirelessly, her hands glowing with light, her spirit patient and pure. It was there, amid towers and tomes, that she met Arthas again. Not the boy she remembered from courtly visits in Lordaeron, but a man now, a prince clad in silvered armor, training with the Knights of the Silver Hand. His presence was sunlight and shadow, proud, confident, haunted by the weight of his future crown. Their connection was instant, though neither dared name it at first. He would watch her practice spells from afar. She would ask him about the blade he trained with, about justice, duty, and the burden of lineage. They grew close. They laughed. They stole moments between duties and destinies. In time, they became something more. It was not a fairy tale. There were silences between them, questions left unspoken. But what they had was real. He called her his anchor. She called him her fire. But the world outside Dalaran stirred with a colder wind. In the north, rumors rose of a strange sickness, villages vanishing, crops rotting, undeath. The scourge had begun to spread. Jaina was sent to investigate. Not alone, never alone. Arthas insisted on accompanying her. They rode together to Stratholme, a city once full of light and song. But what they found was horror. The people were already infected, and Arthas made a choice. He would not let the sickness spread. He would not wait. He ordered the city purged. Jaina's heart broke. "There must be another way," she begged. "We can find a cure. There is still time." But Arthas, cold and resolute, refused. "They're already dead. They just don't know it yet." She could not follow him down that path. And so she turned away. The man she loved burned a city, and a part of her burned with it. After Stratholme, Jaina returned to Dalaran a different person, quieter, older, not in body, but in soul. She watched Arthas descend further into obsession. He sailed to Northrend, chasing a shadow with a cursed blade. And there, he was lost. He returned not as prince, but as a death knight. The whispers were true. He had taken Frostmourne. He had killed his own father. He was the Lich King's champion now, and Jaina, once his anchor, was now his witness. She stood in the ruins of Lordaeron. She saw the throne room where Tyrannus fell, and she wept. Not just for Arthas, but for the world. Jaina tried to heal, tried to focus her efforts on peace, on magic, on diplomacy, but the world would not wait. The Horde had arrived in Kalimdor. War followed them. And yet, a vision came to her from a stranger, Medivh, last guardian of Tirisfal. He urged her to unite with the Horde, to trust the orc called Thrall. And though her father's ghost whispered war in her heart, she chose hope. Kalimdor was a wild continent, ancient, vast, and scarred by time. Amid its eastern coast, where cliffs dipped into pale blue ocean, Jaina founded a haven. Not for conquest, not for war, but for peace. Theramore Isle, they named it. Stone walls rose with purpose. Ships filled the harbor. And within the quiet walls, human survivors, mages, craftsmen, and soldiers found a place to begin again. Jaina led them, not with a crown, not with fear, but with reason and compassion. Jaina became more than a mage. She became a bridge between kingdoms. She sent envoys to Orgrimmar. She hosted talks with night elves. She sat at the same table with trolls, tauren, even goblins. And slowly, painfully, the world began to believe it might heal. She worked beside Thrall, war chief of the Horde. Their bond grew out of mutual respect, and something quieter beneath it. An understanding, a weight they both carried. They stood together when the Burning Legion returned, when Archimond rose, when the forests of Mount Hyjal burned. They stood as allies, not enemies, and the Legion was defeated. For a time, Jaina believed peace could last, but peace has shadows. And across the sea, in Kul Tiras, her father's heart had never rested. Jaina Proudmoore still held hatred for the Horde. To him, they were monsters, unchanged and unrepentant. When he arrived in Theramore, he did not come as a father. He came as an admiral. He seized the docks. He fortified the city. He hunted orcs without mercy. Jaina's heart tore. She loved her father, but she saw the truth. He had become what he feared, and so she made a choice. She let Thrall and Rexer through her gates, and in the battle that followed, Jaina Proudmoore fell in her arms, his blood upon the stones of her city. Theramore endured, but Jaina changed. She carried guilt, she carried silence, and yet she did not falter. She continued her work. She advised kings, counseled Kalikos the Blue Dragon, and guided the mages of Dalaran. She believed in diplomacy. She believed in a future where her father's war would not echo. But peace is a fragile thing, and soon that fragility would be tested by fire, by betrayal, by Theramore's fall. Theramore had become more than a settlement. It was a symbol of diplomacy, of coexistence, of what Azeroth could be if swords were set down. Jaina kept it alive with tireless will. She hosted emissaries. She trained mages. She shared wisdom freely, even to former foes. She believed that understanding could outlive war. She believed she could hold the line. But some saw peace not as strength, but as weakness. Garrosh Hellscream now led the Horde. Where Thrall had tempered power with spirit, Garrosh forged it into a weapon. He saw Theramore not as neutral ground, but as a threat, a staging ground for alliance aggression, a reminder of compromise he could not accept. And so he sent his armies. The skies darkened, the docks burned. Jaina stood at the gates of her city and summoned storm and shield. She would not surrender. She would not flee. Theramore would stand. The Kirin Tor sent aid. Ronan, leader of the mages, stood beside her. Kalikos, her dearest friend, brought word and warning. Even Bane Bloodhoof sent a message. He did not support Garrosh's cruelty. They rallied together, held the walls, turned back the Horde wave by wave. And for a moment, it seemed they might survive. But Garrosh had no intention of simple conquest. He had sent more than soldiers. He had sent a mana bomb. It fell from the sky in silence, a perfect sphere, glowing, humming. And when it struck, it tore the city from time. Arcane fire swallowed the streets. Magic turned to ash. Reality folded in on itself. Theramore was annihilated. Ronan died to save the others. He teleported Jaina away in the final breath and was gone. In seconds, a city was erased, and Jaina was changed. She wandered the ruins, ash clinging to her robes, ghosts in the wind. She saw the melted stones, the outlines of those who had once laughed within the walls. Her friends, her people, gone. Her skin turned pale. Her hair, once golden, bleached white by grief and arcane backlash. She was no longer the girl of Dalaran, no longer the voice of peace. She was storm and sorrow. And the sea within her heart began to rise. The ruins of Theramore smoldered. But within Jaina, something else began to burn. Grief turned to anger, anger to resolve. The mage who once sought peace now sought justice, and her power, always formidable, surged with new depth. The elements bent to her grief. The seas answered her sorrow. The arcane storm within her heart began to rise. Jaina had lost her city, but not her will. She would never be the same. She returned to Dalaran, eyes distant and voice cold. The Kirin Tor looked upon her and saw both legend and storm. She now commanded spells that froze entire battalions. She summoned tempests with a whisper. Some feared her, others admired her. And Jaina, she simply endured. When the throne of the Kirin Tor was left vacant, Jaina was chosen to lead. Lady Jaina Proudmoore, ruler of Dalaran, archmage, stormborn. She wore the mantle like armor, not for prestige, but to protect what remained. But the storm in her heart had not yet passed. When word came that blood elves had betrayed the Kirin Tor, smuggling the divine bell to aid Garrosh, Jaina's fury ignited. She ordered the Sun Reavers removed from Dalaran. Forcefully, some resisted, some bled. Even those not directly involved were cast out. To Jaina, it was necessary. To others, it was too far. But she did not waver. She had tried mercy. She had begged for unity, and it had cost her everything. Now she would protect what she had left, at any cost. Not all supported her actions. Khadgar, ever wise, counseled patience. Thrall, once her ally, grew distant. Even Kalikos, her blue dragon companion, stepped back. Jaina stood alone again. And yet, deep within, her soul still remembered what she once fought for. Peace, compassion, balance. She did not weep, but in her silence there were echoes of who she had been. As time passed, the tide within her began to calm, not vanish, but soften. She remained powerful, respected, feared, but the girl from Kul Tiras was not gone, merely hidden beneath waves, waiting. And soon, she would be called home. Years passed like waves on a distant shore. Jaina remained in Dalaran, cloaked in power, solitude, and silence. But the sea remembered. A summons came from across the ocean, a voice from her past. Her mother, Jaina Proudmoore, ruling matriarch of Kul Tiras. Jaina had not seen her homeland since she was a girl, since she left to study magic, since she allowed her father to fall. She feared what awaited her there. Judgment, rejection, memory. But still, she answered the call. The cliffs of Kul Tiras rose from the mist like forgotten giants. The city of Boralis pulsed with salt and tradition. As her ship docked, whispers followed her. She's back, the traitor, the daughter of the sea. She walked the streets where she once danced as a child, now watched with suspicion and sorrow. The people had not forgiven her, and her mother had closed her heart. Catherine turned away, cold, formal. She saw not her daughter, only the one who let Jaina Proudmoore die. Kul Tiras was not the proud empire it once was. The noble houses bickered. The seas grew dark with piracy. The hearts of the people were heavy, and Jaina knew that healing required more than spells. She faced her past. She walked the halls of her childhood home. She revisited the throne her father once ruled from. In the shadows, her guilt stirred. In dreams, she heard a song. Beware, beware, the daughter of the sea. When accused of betrayal before the Council of Admiralty, Jaina stood tall. She did not beg. She did not plead. She told the truth of Daelin's hate, of her choice, of what it cost. And when danger came, when Ashvane betrayed them, when the kingdom teetered on collapse, Jaina did not flee. She fought, she bled. And her mother saw, not the traitor, not the outcast, but her daughter. In time, Catherine forgave, and Jaina took her place, Lord Admiral of Kul Tiras. She wore the mantle her father once did, but not with his anger, with grace, with wisdom, with strength. Kul Tiras stood again, not as an empire of war, but as a beacon on the sea. And Jaina, she had come home, to herself. With Kul Tiras returned to the Alliance, Jaina stood once more upon the deck of a flagship. This time, not as a diplomat, not as a mourning daughter, but as Lord Admiral. The fleet of her homeland followed her, sails bright against the sky, cannons bristling over the waves. The sea itself seemed to part for her passage, as if the tides remembered their daughter. A war raged once again, the Fourth War, and Jaina would not stand aside. She returned to Stormwind, her robes bearing the Proudmoore crest. There she saw old faces. Anduin Rin, grown into a king, Gen Greymane, still haunted by loss, Tyrande, whose fury had only grown, and Khadgar, smiling softly, as if seeing a student finally come home. Jaina stood among them with quiet dignity, no longer a figure of grief, but of resolve. The Alliance needed her, and she came not to lead alone, but to unite. Across Zandalar, Kul Tiras, and distant shores, the Alliance and Horde clashed again. But this time, Jaina fought with clarity. She did not call for blind vengeance. She sought justice, balance, and protection of the innocent. She wielded magic like the sea, sometimes calm, sometimes devastating. In Stormsong Valley, she uncovered corruption. In Nazjatar, she faced the Naga beneath the waves. And in Mechagon, she allied with unlikely friends, bringing new strength to the cause. Each step she took, her people followed. And her heart, though still marked by pain, found purpose in every wave. As war gave way to diplomacy, Jaina became a steady voice on the Council of the Alliance. She no longer called for endless peace, but neither did she welcome war. She called for wisdom, for listening, for healing, and when Sylvanas Windrunner shattered the Horde, Jaina spoke not with triumph, but with sorrow. No one truly wins in war, she said. Only those who survive to rebuild. Yet all was not still. The world whispered again, of shadows, of ancient prisons, of the jailer lurking in the realms beyond death. And Jaina, never one to retreat, answered the call, even if it meant stepping into the Shadowlands. The skies of Azeroth broke. The veil between life and death split like cracked glass, and from the tear poured a silence older than the stars. Jaina stood with the heroes of the Alliance, watching the light bend above Icecrown. When the moment came, when they were pulled into the Shadowlands, she did not flinch, for she had already walked through grief. Now, she would walk through death itself. The Maw was not a place of rest. It was torment given form. Here the jailer ruled. Here Sylvanas served. And here Jaina was taken. Imprisoned in cold halls of anguish, Jaina faced not pain of the flesh but of the soul. Visions, memories, her father's voice in the dark. You let me die. You betrayed your blood. She knew they were lies, and yet the doubt lingered like frost. She whispered her own name over and over, like a spell to keep herself whole. Jaina Proudmoore, daughter of the sea. She would not be broken. She was not alone. Other heroes had been taken. Anduin, Thrall, Bane. Each endured their own torment. But slowly, through courage and clarity, Jaina found cracks in the darkness. She unraveled runes, dispelled illusions. She remembered who she was. A leader, a mage, a light in the storm. And when the time came to escape, it was Jaina who led the way. The Maw did not hold her. Beyond the Maw lay realms of the afterlife. Bastion, land of purity and duty. Revendreth, a Gothic place of penance. Ardenweald, where dreams slept beneath blue leaves. Maldraxxus, where war was never forgotten. In each, Jaina walked softly. She learned, she listened, and she helped those who had no guide. In Korthia, she uncovered truths buried in shadow. In Zereth Mortis, she glimpsed the fabric of reality itself. But always, she carried her past like a compass, her failures, her loves, her loss, and her hope. When the time came to face the jailer, Jaina did not raise her hand in anger. She raised it in resolve. With Anduin, she stood tall. With the champions of Azeroth, she fought. And when it was over, when the darkness had been sealed away, Jaina did not cheer. She simply exhaled, for she knew peace was never permanent, but it was always worth fighting for. The war was over, The darkness receded, the jailer gone, the veil restored, and for the first time in years, Jaina let herself breathe. She returned not to a throne, but to the sea. In Kul Tiras, she walked the cliffs of her childhood, listened to the waves, and watched the sky change with each passing day. There was no speech, no spell, just silence and peace. In time, others came. Anduin, weary from battle, seeking guidance. Khadgar, with tea and tales. Thrall, older, softer, carrying the echoes of honor. Even Kalikos returned, not as a dragon prince, but as a friend. They spoke of memories, of those they had lost, of what the world still needed. And in those moments, Jaina smiled, not with sorrow, but with gratitude. Jaina often sat alone, book in hand, breeze in her hair. She thought of Arthas, of Theramore, of her mother. She did not bury her past, she embraced it. Each wound a wave, each joy a star. She knew she could not undo the tides, but she could learn from them and guide others through their storms. One morning, as gulls circled the harbor, a child asked her, "Are you the Sea Witch?" Jaina knelt, smiling. "No," she said, "I'm just someone who listens to the ocean." And the child nodded, content. She was not a witch, not a tyrant, not a broken mage. She was Jaina Proudmoore, daughter of the sea, daughter of storm, and daughter of peace. Stories live beyond war, beyond crowns, beyond spells and steel. Jaina's tale is one of those stories, woven not just in arcane brilliance, but in heartbreak, healing, and growth. She began as a girl of promise, became a woman of power, and emerged a soul of wisdom. Her life was shaped by loss, her city, her love, her people. But never did she let the world define her. She was a voice for peace, then a blade of storm, and finally, a guide. Young mages study her spells in Dalaran. Sailors in Kul Tiras whisper her name to calm the sea. To some, she is a hero. To others, a reminder. To all, she is a survivor. In her legacy, leaders find caution and hope. That strength need not be cruel. That forgiveness is not weakness. That the sea, though ever-changing, always returns to stillness. They still sing her song. Beware, beware, the daughter of the sea. But those who know her story know that it ends not in fear, but in peace. Jaina stands where waves meet the world, a silhouette in twilight, eyes to the horizon, waiting for the next tide. And until then, she rests. And now, gentle listener, let the tides of her journey rock you gently into rest. Let her courage echo quietly in your dreams. You are safe here, upon the shores of story. Thank you for joining us on this peaceful voyage. Until next time, may your dreams be deep and your night be still. This has been Whispers of Warcraft.